Hello there, everybody. How are you all doing today? It's time for Megan and I to finally watch the Spore video that we've talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
For the past little bit. So this was uploaded in well, this wasn't uploaded, but this was taken in 2005. So you can see Spore has been in like a deep development for quite a while now. Like it's not like what we see here isn't like even like fleshed out, right? But they still take like a few years, so a lot of changes happened.
Yeah.
Anybody that watched I think the last conference, excuse me, well, no, Nintendo's. It was Nintendo's conference, right?
Yeah.
Knows a lot about my thoughts on Spore and how I think it's like a good game, but had a lot of potential, and also a lot of what stuff was cut and changed that I don't think should have been cut and changed. In fact, I guess you can also watch this video here. I never seen it myself, but it's the lost, canceled, and cut content of Spore. If you want like more information, which I might actually.
We
watch
might have to check that out on our own.
Yeah, that's uploaded in 2006. So this was uploaded by a fine fellow named Seaburn. To be fair, I don't know if he's a fine fellow. I've not seen any of his other stuff, but I'm gonna say that and hope that he is indeed a fine fellow and doesn't have like terrible things on that channel. Probably not. Let's actually have a little peek.
I'm sure he's a fine enough fellow.
Yeah, it's the King of the Hill thing, so yes, he's very solid at the very least. Radiohead. A lot of Radiohead stuff.
Clips.
Nah, I'm sure he's a fine fellow. I don't know for sure, but I'm sure he's a fine fellow. Anyway, yeah. So a bit of backstory for me with this. Back in ye olden days, I remember being on. I don't remember how I first heard of Spore, but I don't remember if it was GameFAQs or if it was like a separate website. I want to say it was probably GameFAQs because that was my main hangout for like a while.
Yeah.
And I remember someone. Yeah, this is like before YouTube as well. Like before YouTube was really a thing. So, you had someone would post a link and be like, yo, here, check out this thing that was shown at GDC. It's pretty cool. And then you'd go to the link and then you'd download it. And then the video would be on your computer. And then you would watch that video on your computer. And it's like, whoa. Nowadays, it'd just be on YouTube. It'd be YouTube linked. But back in the day, let's just show you how different things were back then,
I do find it funny because, like, when you're explaining the whole concept, it makes you sound like a total boomer, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, right? Like, I mean, it does, Because it's true. It's like, oh, I prefer YouTube, to be honest, than, like, downloading every video. But it was such a weird period of time where just, like, back then it was like, man, look at all of this, it's like, man, look at all these videos you have to download. Okay, mini thing I'm just gonna say here. Back in the day, I remember finding what I would consider the first Let's Play I ever saw, right?
Yeah.
Not on YouTube. It was like pre-YouTube. And it was like this duo who you can still find on YouTube, actually. I don't know if I think their videos are up there, called Mac and Mesh, right? They are what I consider the first Let's Players, essentially.
Okay.
Because I remember finding a download link to one of their videos, and it was just this British guy, who was playing Doom 3 in the dark, and he got like really scared throughout like the whole thing. It's very like, like back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Where, it was very like cut. Like it wasn't him playing through the whole game. It was literally him playing through, like, a level or two or something. It was heavily edited to, like, cut between all the, like, I guess, quote-unquote, boring bits or something.
Yeah.
So it's not like a typical Let's Play what you'd see today or anything, but, it was fun. It was very different. I was, like, probably going a whole thing about them because they were very interesting. They, at one point, played, like, Alien vs. Predator, like, one of the more recent ones at the time. And, like, they did the whole thing, and then when it got to the end of the game, they're like, okay, we're gonna do something really special with this, and we're gonna try to sell this. So they then tried to sell it, but they had a lot of legal issues, so they couldn't sell it. So they eventually, many years later, just uploaded it like online. Really weird stuff. It's such a weird period of the internet. It's such a wild west.
Sounds like it.
You know what I mean? Like it's such a wild west. And to be fair, although they were fun, they were also obviously it was all very just like amateur by today's standards.
Yeah.
But something I found out kind of funny. They don't really do videos anymore, right? I don't know why. They just kind of do their own things, I guess now. But one of them, Mac, the guy named Mac, right? I guess went on to make this channel called Worth a Buy, which is actually pretty big now, I think. Which is kind of cool. Although I hear he's very controversial, and it's like, maybe I shouldn't like Mac anymore.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, right. Anyway, sorry for that. I just like talking about like early internet because it's such a wild west with like Let's Plays and how you would watch them and videos like this, right? It's such a wild west. Sorry, maybe I'll put up a thing saying if you want to skip all this, just go to like 5 minutes or 6 minutes or something. In. Anyway, Megan, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably put that up.
Start here, and we're in the land of the very small.
Yeah, see, so this is showing off the cell thing. So it's at the GDC, the Game Developers Conference in 2005.
Like some fluid dynamics.
Showing off the cell
It looks like a much more interesting like base organism too.
So basically,
Yeah,
I'm trying to get these little dots. These little bad things chase me. Certain ones, like these guys, can kill me too. Ah, that's bad. I have certain abilities in this world, but this world is pretty much entirely procedurally generated. Now, the abilities I get from this guy, after I eat enough little of these food pellets, I get to lay an egg.
That's how you get to lay an egg.
I now actually get to go to the next generation of the guy. I can click on the egg.
Yeah, see, look at this, right?
If we could bring the lights down just a little bit.
I mean, it looks very similar. Of course.
It does.
Here's a little editor. I have very simple parts that I can kind of build for this guy. I have mouthpieces that influence what I can eat. I can either eat filter food or I have a proboscis I can poke into things. I have different movement methods, flagella, cilia, little jet, and weapons like nemesis, spikes, whatever. So I'm going to take a little spike here, put it on the front of the guy, and then go back into the game. And
I don't think that's on. Yeah, it's not on my end. Is it?
Oh. I don't think so.
Like the video
it's still playing.
Yeah, no, it's just like frozen.
I've actually modified this guy's abilities.
Yeah, there you go.
So
so I'm putting that on. Modify the abilities.
Now he can go in and attack.
Pop, pop.
Now I still can't go after the brown guys, but now I have a new food source. Now I can change my movement and get faster. I can get stronger. So basically, the character that I'm controlling here is something that I've designed in the editor. Now, over time, as I'm playing this game, the camera kind of pulls out. The depth of field, kind of reses down. This guy grows as it gets more complex. I'm going to skip ahead reses down in his life cycle. What you're actually doing is you're playing through several generations here.
Was a little louder now, so I'm just going to turn down a bit.
You get the ability to go in and kind of modify it.
Yo, look at this! The water stage!
From a 2D,
wow, okay, this actually looks kind of cool.
Man, it should be a shame if they got rid of this.
Drop of water.
Will.
We're living kind of under the ocean. Now, this entire world you see here is procedurally generated. And especially the guy, which I've created as a player. When I say procedural, I also kind of include player creating things, being very malleable in a procedural way. So, for instance, the player creates his character, but the animations, behaviors, textures are all generated procedurally.
See, it's such a cool concept, right? It's such a cool idea.
This guy has a life cycle,
yeah,
very much like the little cell guy did. He also competes with other creatures in the environment. Another thing to realize here that's kind of different is that all the creatures in this environment are coming from other players. Look around here a little bit. Swim over those guys. Now, when I say coming from other players, what I mean is that they are asynchronously being sent to your computer to fill out your world. We're actually building a balanced ecosystem.
Yeah, see, like having like the underwater stage, I think adds a little bit more depth to it as well, right?
Now, like the cell game, this guy, when he reproduces, he lays an egg.
Very pearl-looking egg.
And now we go into the editor.
Yeah, kind of.
Now, this is the editor for this guy. You can see he's kind of made out of parts. The editor here is roughly a mixture of kind of Mr. Potato Head, Erector Set, and clay. I can grab the parts and manipulate them. I can even kind of pull them off, morph them. So I'll pull that off. I can grab the spine here, manipulate it. You see there's an underlying skeleton here, which gives me some clue as to kind of the internal structure of the guy.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the internal skeleton.
And like clay, I can roll the mouse
in the current game. Because it looks like they do have ribs, but I don't know if it's quite like that in the game. It's been a while. I played.
I
Now,
don't
these
think they
things
have
are
like
built
the
out of
ribs per
functional
se,
parts
but
that
they
actually
do
have
have like
meaning
the
to the
spine
guy.
you can kind of shape and
In terms of how he's
extend,
gonna
but
behave and live in
it's
this world.
rather basic on what
Um,
you can do.
These parts
Yeah.
also have.
Because like you can make certain sections a bit thicker with the skin if you want, or thinner. You can change the shape and stuff, the spine and everything, and the legs.
The part
But like,
categories, come in
yeah, I don't
functional
know if you
divisions.
can
So these
really
are
do a
graspers.
ton
A lot of the parts
with it.
also have some functional value besides their primary one. So that's a grasper as well as having a little bit of a weapon ability. But it's primarily grasper. This is a 3-jointed leg, like a little bit smaller. These are feet. So basically, I've taken my little swimming guy. I can also scale the parts as I put them on.
So notice how when you're putting stuff on the model. Now this is a personal preference. It's not doing like, yo, look how goofy I'm being, right? Like, oh, I'm checking out my hands now, right?
Yeah, that's true, because it did a little animation when you put a thing on. You're like, oh, I have this.
Yeah, right.
Guy. So the player can build like really unusual characters in here. The system will analyze what.
And notice how it doesn't like look incredibly cartoony. Like it's kind of hard to see with the resolution, but like it's not incredibly cartoony. It's oddly like kind of realistic with how you would see something like this, right? Like it's not like, yo, this is just some really kind of colorful, like goofy looking like face. It's like, nah, if you build like an alien creature, yeah, sure, like that could be what it looks like, right?
So we'll bring this guy back into the game, and because he lost his fins, he doesn't really swim too well now. So I'm going to actually have him kind of leave the ocean here.
Yeah, the art style is a lot less cartoony as well with the environments, because this looks more like an African savanna.
Yeah, right. Which, once again, purely personal preference. I'm just going to channel on a little bit more. Purely personal preference, but I like the more realistic look, right?
Yeah. I think it looks good. And like, I don't necessarily mind the way Spore looks, but when it has very simplistic gameplay on top of it, it just feels kind of awkward and not very interesting.
Yeah, I even feel like the way combat's done is a little bit better in this version of Spore.
Is based upon where I put his weapon, which is on his tail.
I also like how it sounds like they're playing the one theme from Star Wars, right? Not Star Wars, Star Trek. When like, what is it, the Klingon fight or something from the old Star Trek, right? Where it's like do. You've seen it in Futurama. They reference it.
I mean, probably. I just don't quite remember because I never watched Star Trek. Oh, and they're actually showing blood. They don't do that in the game.
Yeah, right. They're showing blood, right? Like this looks a lot more brutal too, right? Like, look at that.
Get off my head. Yeah.
You know what? I wonder if a part of the reason why they changed it is because they wanted to bring the rating down to like E for everyone.
I mean, could be possible.
Now we can actually start eating him.
Because I don't know for sure, but I assume Spore is rated E for everyone. And if it was like this, it'd probably have to be rated at least teen.
Now, one of the cool things about procedural verbs is that they can be cleanly mixed. For instance, I can tell this guy to take a bite out of this guy and then tell him to walk at the same time.
Yeah, you can't do that in the actual game.
Yeah, you can't do that in the actual game, but it seems so much more animalistic, right?
Yeah.
One of the real wins, though, is that whatever I've created in this game...
Also, he's got, like, unique animations for walking backwards, too. I'm pretty sure if you do it in the actual game, it just plays the animation backwards. It doesn't do anything different.
Yeah, I believe so.
And...
Not that you do it very often, mind you, but... Oh, no!
It's coming to steal the kill.
This is where you say, run away.
I like how it's like a giant spider, but then it's got, like, what looks to be scythes on its arms.
Kind of
yeah, right.
Ecosystem, so you're not always the top of the food chain here. On the other hand, this guy's kind of fast, and, you know, maybe he has something on his stealth, and maybe I can outrun these stupid little hoppy guys, and he'll go eat one of those guys instead.
I mean, you're kind of a bigger target.
I think I might be safe.
So, you know, I almost wonder if part of the push to make it more cartoony...
Lifespan of one of these creatures.
I don't know, I feel like it wouldn't have been a Will Wright thing. I almost feel like maybe it would have been like... Because he is, like, the creator of The Sims, right?
Yeah.
And stuff. So maybe they're like, okay, The Sims are pretty cartoony. That works. Because like, I think EA had a big hand in this too, right? I mean, I don't know how EA is.
Yeah, I remember hearing EA did have some pretty controlling aspects in terms of this game with Maxis, and even like later games like Sims 3.
Yeah, right. So I could see them going like, okay, well, you know what? The Sims was cartoony. That really worked. Why don't you make Spore more cartoony?
Okay, then we get to the procedural mating.
Right?
Yeah.
Now we can say it's like The Sims, but for life, as opposed to, people. Okay, see, this is funny, right? I got fun music.
Okay, enough of that silliness.
Egg.
Then we lay an egg, and that gives us access to the editor, where we get to create the next generation of creature. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a sense for how open-ended this really is. I'm going to load a few creatures that we've created in the editor, just to give you a sense for how creative the player can be with this. This guy, I call him Buttface, but notice he has a rather non-standard leg configuration.
Very non-standard. Yeah, look at him go.
But still, he moves very smoothly. Very realistic, very lifelike. One little kind of subtle trick we're playing with here is that, people have never seen Buttface before, so they don't know how he's supposed to move.
I guess that's true. Maybe that's also part of the reason why they went to a cartoony aesthetic. They're like, well, they could justify awkward animations because it's in a cartoony aesthetic.
I mean, maybe. But, like, even looking at this, though, right, I feel like the procedural movement is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like, in this.
Yeah, they definitely didn't do anything like that where they actually had weight to them if you built them really awkwardly.
Let's see, this guy called Hangdog.
Hangdog, I like it.
He kind of walks cool, too. But again, basically the same code running on all these things that, analyze what the player's done.
I love how that because his arms are so long in the front that he'll actually, if he's running fast enough, he'll actually kind of like swing on them.
Yeah, right.
That's a nice little detail.
This guy's cool too.
Oh, that's terrifying. That's like nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
So the function of these guys is,
Yeah, I would be curious to see what would happen if you try to make a similar looking creature in the normal game, and if they would walk similarly, or if it would look worse.
I'd wager it probably looks worse, but it'd be kind of interesting just to try it and see if you could get something close enough.
From the system. And of course, I insisted to the team that we had to do a Care Bear. So.
Oh, beautiful.
Look at him go.
Care Bear. I'm gonna make him a really mean carnivore.
See, he walks a little awkward than what I would imagine a Care Bear would. He kind of reminds me of like how maybe one of the animatronics from FNAF would walk.
True.
There's one more palette at the bottom here.
Dude, we should make a Freddy Fazbear in the Spore crater.
We should. That'd be funny.
This is what you're really trying to do here. Is you're trying to save away a little bit of funds as you're playing the game and slowly invest them in the brain. This is kind of like your college savings account. A lot of times you're buying stuff, I'm getting beat up, I'm going to buy better weapons, or I'm going to hide or run faster. But if you can save a little bit extra, you start investing in the brain and you work your way up kind of this ladder.
See, that's not how you do it in the base game either. Your brain just levels up as, you eat, I guess.
You move to the next phase.
Yeah, and you get like a certain amount of parts you can put on each generation of the creature. And they give you different bonuses, which, at least in my experience, usually means like, oh hey, you might add a couple extra spikes instead of making something creative. You just stick a bunch of things on its back or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And it doesn't matter how you put it on, for the most part. Unless you put the mouth in a weird spot, then it's kind of funny. I think I tried that with some creature where I put it like on its leg or like on its tail or something, and it made it really awkward to try and feed it. It was really funny.
That did sound really funny. Oh, sorry for pausing. It just sounded like he said something kind of funny. I just kind of wanted to hear it.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
One thing that I talked about landmarks last time in my talk last year, and I'm going to show you just a few of the landmarks for me in the design. One landmark is I've always been fascinated with the idea of monkeys with guns. And I don't know why. This is what happens when you give monkeys guns. It's just there's something cool about that.
Okay, I thought he was going on something else.
At this level, rather than the creature is now set. You've evolved the creature, but at this level, I can buy them tools. In this case, I'm shocked.
And by the way, this is really cool. I wanted to mention this when we got to the travel stage. That seeing like this suddenly is a very neat idea for the time, right?
More elaborate procedural verbs at this point.
I like now you're playing with a lot of them. It's a different kind of a game.
Decide what they want to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try now, before they get into trouble, I'm going to buy them a campfire here. These guys are still a bit excitable.
Are they going to dance around it?
But I'm actually dealing with the social dynamics at this point. Depending on how they play them, they can become very emotional or very logical at this level of the game. Let me buy them a drum. Now, I bought them a drum, and now these guys have decided to start playing the drum. This is actually a procedural dance, based upon my creature.
So given how the building and stuff looks here, it does seem a bit more realistic.
It's influencing what they can do. I can control groups of them now. So
yeah.
On, like hunting parties, and I'm in fact competing with other tribes. At this level, the ladder that I'm climbing is I'm really upgrading their hut. And so I'm going to buy them a better hut here, which will allow me to buy them better
I do find it
tools.
interesting that the UI they have for like the tools and stuff you can get looks very similar to like the UI in Sims.
They have to do with food.
Yeah, right. I guess it makes sense.
Now they're just basically living in this
why change what you're used to, right?
As I upgrade the hut
yeah, because I want to say they changed the aesthetic a little bit, but like in terms of like actual functionality, I think it's very similar.
To get the next game, which is the city game.
Oh, nice.
Now, at this level, we're basically playing a very, very simple version of SimCity. I can, decide what buildings to make them. I build roads. They have needs. And basically, I'm trying to keep them happy in their little city. And again, I have complete creative control over everything you see here. So I am, the player is the author of this little world.
See, I don't really remember the city stage being like super interactive. Like you could build different buildings and design buildings, but I don't remember being able to design streets or anything.
Yeah, I don't think you could do that. Maybe that's something. Maybe they wanted it to be more customizable.
And I just
really
cool that another player's made. It'll try to learn the style that I'm using.
Because I do remember them having different needs and stuff, so you had to build certain buildings to give them like happiness or money or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was very basic, like you said.
Or, if I see something I want to modify or I want to build something from scratch, I can actually go into the building editor.
I'll be honest, I didn't do a lot of the building creator stuff because I didn't find it interesting. I usually just use whatever the default was.
Yeah, the building creator I never really found interesting either.
Basically everything in here has a handle. I can kind of play around with it.
Like, I'm sure if you wanted to like use all the shapes to build like various aspects, you could probably get really creative with it. It's just, if I do it, I'm not there to build buildings. I'm there to kind of just play the game. Right, like I could spend like 30 minutes or an hour on each building trying to get it to look the way I want, but then I'm out of the civilization stage very quickly anyway, typically. So,
That's true. In my experience, at least when I played, it seemed to be like the fastest stage to progress through.
They really have a lot of time, and we found this a lot in the Sims build mode, by the way.
But yeah, I could see people making very creative stuff if you wanted to have like a themed city.
Yeah,
and they got so much creative reward for doing that I've been looking at how we fold that experience more and more into the gameplay. Okay, so we basically add this little mushroom thing to our building. We'll go back in the game. There it is over here. So they're happy. They like it. The primary feedback for me in this game is kind of the happiness of my people, and they, now we're dealing with like large-scale kind of social interactions between the characters. As I mentioned before in the tribal game, this is my city, but I'm actually competing, with other cities. If I scroll across the map, I can look for neighbors. So here's
another. On low resolution looks pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Just using, slightly different primitives, different texturing, from the procedural texturing, but just to give you a sense of the variety of style that a player can do. So our city was kind of, I would call it maybe Dr. Seuss style. This is more kind of techno-industrial Star Wars. But these kind of demonstrate a little bit the kind of Pixar to Giger dimensions. Now, these guys also will have a very different culture than my guys. Depending on how we evolved and how I, dealt with them, or how the computer dealt with these guys during evolution in tribal. These guys are really kind of more aggressive, a little bit more industrial. At some point, once you upgrade your city enough, you get the ability to start building vehicles.
Good transition.
This is how the city.
Yeah, I remember the vehicle builder being okay.
The tribe and doing raids.
Yeah, once again, still very basic, but okay. You know.
Good or bad relationships.
Yeah, I think I did a little bit with it, but I didn't do too much. The creature creator was my favorite one.
Oh, definitely, creature creator is the best.
I like those tanks though.
Yeah, like I did pause it here because I once again just want to point out how like kind of realistic in a way these look, right? They don't look as cartoony because a lot of the vehicles that you do build and can build in Spore now, once again, I have that cartoony aesthetic. Once again, purely like personal, right? Like I prefer the realistic look of a game like this. I can understand why people would prefer like maybe the cartoony style. But to me, like, this is what I wanted, right? Like, this is kind of what I mean when I say, like, I wanted Spore to be like this. More realistic, everything looking, you know.
At the city level, we basically have kind of three ways.
Nice, a bit of grittiness to it as well, especially during the animal, like, the actual creature stage.
Or cultural, depending on kind of the cultural flavor of my people. So they don't look very friendly, and they're heading our way. So, we can open our vehicle editor, which works very much like the building editor. There's a shopping alternative populated with, you know, items that other players have created. And I'm just going to buy something here. Like that, we have parts categories. These have functional meaning. So propellers, you know, can help the thing fly. Certain things enable it to go into water or go on land. But I'm just going to go ahead and go for this goofy-looking thing. This is kind of more of a Nazca-looking. And there they go.
Nazca convention.
Go God knows where.
See, I find it like interesting because I think in the base game you can build like boats and tanks and planes. And I think that's really about it.
Okay.
I think so. It didn't have a ton of creativity with it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anytime these guys are
what do you say? And it kind of looked like with this maybe there were like more options for vehicle types.
Yeah.
Not too sure. I do want to hear what he says.
Not that way.
Oh yeah. They like fly past the tanks.
Go God knows where.
They did.
They're a little goofy. Yeah, go to that city. Go. No, not that way. Oh. Okay. So they're peaceful cowards, so it's hopeless.
Peaceful cowards, nice.
Know. In the meantime, these guys are, you know, not looking real friendly. So
the one thing about the civilization stage that I kind of found interesting is, like I mentioned in the other video, when I played this game, I was very much like a herbivore. So when I got to the stage, like to do the peaceful route, you had to be like religious. So like I would take over other cities with my religion. But if you played militaristic, you actually had to destroy buildings, which you didn't have to if you were religious. So like you didn't have to rebuild cities after you took them over.
I guess that's true. I never would have thought of that as an option. I did play, you know, the more hardcore side, I will admit.
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth between the two, but that's what I played my first time through the game.
No, I paused it here because I wanna show just kind of how cool of an idea this is, right? Like for the time with the games that we had in 2005, right? Because he's gonna do something that I think is pretty cool.
As we pull
like,
back now,
it's like, whoa, he's zooming out.
for the first time.
Whoa, I can see the planet. Like, see, this is cool, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I can see the whole planet. That's crazy.
Is that as I pull away from a city, it actually gets very exaggerated. This is both for aesthetic and functional reasons. Like, as I pull into the city, notice how it pops to a realistic scale, but as I pull out, it actually becomes an icon. That indicates actually the level of micromanagement. At this level, the city is one big button, and it has a very simple menu. If I want to go in and actually go in and still modify the cities, I'm still building Paris while they're attacking it. I can still zoom in and click the individual buildings and bring them into the editor and stuff. So basically, you know, you play this game, the Civ, game, and slowly conquer the world, city by city, continent by continent, until pretty much you have owned this entire little world and built it on the way. So that's that.
Good job, Will. He's not done with it yet. I think maybe the video is just breaking. Yeah, video is breaking.
It seems.
So here's our little
this is a very old video. Or he's like doing something else. I'm not really too sure.
Yeah, it might be a bit of both, to be honest.
Now, I wanted this to feel like a very clock-like toy world. So you'll notice it actually is very exaggerated, but in a kind of a stylistic way. I'm going to go back to our little city here, see how they're doing. I think we have a crater where that building used to be. In the vehicle editor, there's one more slot that over time we could eventually unlock as we're playing through the game. We started with ground vehicles, water, air, underwater.
Underwater.
I can now buy what we call the UFO.
Because I think they originally had a plan for like underwater cities as well. So you could have like an underwater civilization.
Now, this basically becomes
which when they got rid of the aquatic stage, it's like, well,
this becomes the representation.
you
They
know,
got rid of that too, yeah.
they got rid of that too.
Tools and abilities in the game.
See, that would have been cool. I would have
Very
loved
fast,
to build
very
like an
mobile,
Atlantis.
anywhere on the planet, in no time at all.
See, now this is pretty mind-blowing too. It's like,
really,
whoa, look at that. I can like go across the whole planet. That's neat. A procedurally generated planet. Right?
Yeah.
There's a show I used to watch as a kid all the time. It was called The Mutual of Omaha's Wildlife Kingdom. How many of you saw that show? Oh, yeah. So it had Marlon Perkins and this other dude, I forgot his name. But they would go around, every episode was them saving some wild endangered animal, or studying it or something. But what I loved about the show was that every week almost, the way that they chose to solve the problem, their environmental problem, almost always involved a high-powered tranquilizer gun and a helicopter. So I watched the whole show just for the scene at the end where the guy's in the helicopter hanging out, trying to get, going through the herd, nabbing the guy. So that was something that I really wanted with my UFO here. And so UFO really, one of the things it is, it's a content creation tool. So I can go around looking for something. Let's see. Oh, these are the guys that were beating up on us way back. Now it's time for us to get our revenge.
Oh yeah, I remember that guy. He was the guy that chased away
Get over to him.
Yeah.
the thing for food. Yeah.
Creature.
Yes.
Yo.
Revenge!
So here, this is basically a little abduction beam, and that guy's too fast for me. Oh, I don't want to tank. No way. I get that guy. Oh, man, they're hard to get. Well, I guess one will do. So I can use this to go around the world sucking up content. And as you might have guessed, I can also use my UFO to kind of go further out, and further out, and further out, and further out.
See, this is cool. This is a good reveal, right? It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
The solar system, that's pretty cool, right? Like, it's really neat.
So
Yeah, because I don't think we've really had a lot of games that would even let you do this. Let you go into space.
Yeah, not really, right? Like, there was never anything where, like, if you were on a planet, you could then leave that planet.
Here we have some cold planets.
Like at will, right?
Go over to it. And we can actually take our UFO there to investigate.
And then it's like, oh, you can go to another planet? That's pretty cool.
Represent like little sandboxes for the player.
Yeah.
So as we pull up to this moon, you notice geologically it's very different than where we came from, than our home planet. It's much further away from the sun.
I do like how the moon is literally just full of a bunch of craters.
One of the things I want to do is I actually want to kind of bootstrap it up to life, and basically build a whole flourishing, civilization on this. And I might do a very different style too. So you can view these as like different palettes that I have to work with. So one of the things I want to do is I want to try to get life on this planet to live and kind of bootstrap it up. I'm going to come down to the surface here, really quick. Now, I'm going to try dropping that guy I just picked up.
Oh.
Bye, buddy. That's definitely not a thing in the game.
Yeah, I don't think it is, right?
Because I'm pretty sure if you haven't got the planet ready for life, they won't let you put anything on the planet.
If we can bring up the volume a little bit on this machine. Yeah, that's good.
Thanks, Will.
So we had a little problem there, and we have no atmosphere.
A little problem.
So what we really want to do is we want to make this world livable. Now, at this level, another one of my kind of landmarks was an old thing called Kid Pigs. How many of you played Kid Pigs? I wanted this to feel like Kid Pigs, basically. What I loved about Kid Pigs is you had all these cool, weird, wacky, creative tools, and they were always out of your control. I mean, you always did these unexpected, oops, I didn't mean to do that type of thing. And I wanted the terraforming to kind of feel like that as well. So I'll pick one of my terraforming tools. And these are things that you earn for the UFO. You are actually increasing your UFO's ability over time, and there are lots and lots of tools and different ladders. So, fire a volcano tool.
Yeah, this is cool,
Let's
too.
Let's nuke it!
And so this is actually sculpting the surface of the planet directly.
Now, admittedly, I got pretty bored with like Spore around this point, so I don't know how different this particular aspect is. But I do remember seeing this for the first time and going like, wow, this is actually really cool. Right? Like I can morph like another planet by shooting volcanoes at it?
Now, over time, these will actually start developing a thicker and thicker atmosphere.
I do remember the terraforming being kind of interesting. I don't remember a lot of the details because it's been a long time. I do remember it being enjoyable, but it wasn't really a ton of fun until you unlocked a lot of the tools. And then after a while, it just got very repetitive and boring.
Zoom in. When I build a colony,
I never played long enough to explore like my entire galaxy or anything. But yeah, I found it enjoyable to an extent. Like I would say Space Stage is probably my second favorite part of the game after Creature Stage.
City underwater.
Yeah, see, city underwater. He mentions it, right? So he's like, oh, if I were to build a city underwater, it would be very similar to this, would have the dome on it.
Yeah.
At this point, this level of technology, I can start colonizing the oceans on my home planet, and they would have bubbles as well. Now, this kind of takes a while. Now, once I terraform the planet, I won't need to build bubble cities, and I can actually build very elaborate kind of colonies that are earning me money to help me upgrade my UFO. That's kind of the real loop going on here. We have a little cheat here. You know, this is at the very high levels of the game. You'll eventually be able to afford the what we call the Genesis device. So this will very rapidly, if you notice the ground texture,
Ooh.
things are starting to green up a bit. We're getting a little bit of atmosphere. As the storm clouds pull back a bit. So we are actually trying to bootstrap up the atmosphere, and then there's the biosphere score. So once you get a little bit of an atmosphere, you start then bringing in plants, probably that you've harvested from your home planet. And then you can actually start living there. So it's like a kind of a three-way colonization game, terraforming game. But really, we want players to be extremely creative kind of with what they build here. So let's pull away from this guy. So now it's kind of green. That's a happy little place. Now our guy's there. So everything's good. As I mentioned, the UFO has a lot of different levels that you can advance on, the different tools that you add. One of the more expensive things that you really have to kind of work in here for a while and build some usable colonies, earn a lot of money, but eventually you earn the interstellar drive. And so we pull out again.
See, like really cool. Even cooler.
Yeah.
See, the crowd loves it because you never saw a thing like this in a game, right?
No.
Like, I feel like nowadays, that even now it would still be impressive, but it's like, oh, I've seen stuff like that in games already.
We call this the stellar zoo. In fact, we really have all the real things that you would see in space. One thing that's always really annoyed me about the way astronomy is presented is it's presented as two-dimensional. If you look at star maps like that, I mean, that's the way astronomy is taught. But yet it's this beautifully three-dimensional thing, and you just are not given the sense of what that's like. We have these beautiful images from Hubble, and we're never given any context for how big they are, where they live, how frequent we see them in space. And I really wanted to, at this level, give a player a real sense of what it feels like to be out in the galaxy. So we have things like black holes. Back here, we have planetary nebula, and this is basically an old supernova shell. These very bright stars are like blue giants, and in fact are going to go supernova fairly soon, so I have to kind of stay away from those. So there's actually a terrain here to this. See,
I don't remember the stars being able to go supernova or anything like that. They might have taken that out of the game.
They may have taken that out. Like I said, a lot of this I can't really say too much about.
I can roll the mouse over different planets and listen.
But I could see them taking that out.
Yeah.
If I'm listening for radio chatter, I'm actually trying to discover other intelligence. Oh, there we go.
I just remember the space stage being very similar to something like Civilization, where like you'd have your zone of planets and stuff, and then like if you go outside your zone, you might run into another race. And depending on your alignment, you could either make alliances with them or you could exterminate them and take over.
Okay.
This is another race. Now, this is the point at which I am overtly browsing other players' worlds, okay? So this entire world was created by another player, and now the computer, it's downloaded to my machine. And I want to emphasize this is asynchronous. It's not a, simultaneous multiplayer game. I downloaded it from
and this is a neat idea too, right?
The computer takes over control.
Which a good few games have done now, I think.
Set for it when they evolved it.
Probably No Man's Sky being one of the more notable examples for the modern era.
Little hot planet.
Yeah.
Close to the sun. You can see it has kind of a very different geology. Very arid. There's a very large sun there. We have a big city over here. We'll kind of approach slowly. Now, when we're doing first contact with the other species, you have to kind of play this little close encounters musical game with them to try and establish a language. And they may or may not respond well, depending on how you play it. So I'll try that now.
All right, very cool. Oh. They didn't like that, apparently.
But luckily, we have defensive tools as well.
No. Seems a little unfair.
A little bit. That's what you get for shooting at a UFO.
So this is
That's true.
My weapons are seeming a little ineffectual against them. But as I mentioned, all of our, tools in the UFO come in many different flavors. So.
And they're gone. Oh. In fact, the other planet's gone, apparently.
See, I don't remember being able to destroy planets. That would have been pretty cool if you could just be like, nah, you're gone. Bye.
Yeah.
There go our friends, and there goes my reputation as a non-violent game developer. But we made a new ring. It was a nice crafts project. So I'll just pull out to here. We're going to leave this place. There's nothing more to see here. Move away now. Okay, so at this level, the space level, we actually want to build a set of metagames around, basically my favorite genre is science fiction. Each one of these is going to be a metagame at this level. Starting with something like War of the Worlds, kind of an adult supervision, Peacemaker, Day of the Earth Stood Still type scenarios. Uplift, where I go to worlds that have just primitive creatures. I can drop down a monolith, and basically come back later and see how they've evolved to intelligence to see those worlds. First Contact, abduction and crossbreeding, of course. You'll have free access to the most of the editors at that point. So at this point, I can go back into the creature editor for free and make weird alien, hybrids. And diplomacy. Every race
Diplomacy,
has its own kind of personality. We're actually using the Star Trek races as kind of landmarks, making sure that we get, with the smallest number of dimensions, we can clearly distinguish between all these races, so that when I go up and interact, and I have like the Klingons versus the Borg, or my versions of these things, that they should behave appropriately with each other. They don't want to fight or trade, or just be good friends and share, cool ideas, whatever. We want the space game to really feel very, very open-ended, and this is where I think most of the narrative is going to come into the game. I want the players to feel like they're creating these worlds. If you look at some of the old comic book covers from the 30s and 40s, that's what I want the players to feel like they can make these worlds of this variety. If you look at these covers, they mostly, they have vehicles, buildings, aliens, and planets. So all the different things that we have editors for are represented on these covers. This is some of the concept art we did for trying to get a sense of how broad we think players can build worlds aesthetically.
See, it's such a very neat idea, right?
Now the pollination at this level is that we're actually doing overt browsing. I'm actually going to another player's entire planet. When I'm on the planet, I can actually, abduct their creatures, steal vehicles, and they enter my library. I can use their creatures to go back and populate like an entire zoo planet if I choose to. So really, we have these different levels of gameplay, and the overall structure of the game now is that of a T. That we're going up through evolution, through all these different levels, and then we have these very broad set of metagames above it at the space level. And this is actually a little bit opposite than most games, because what we're doing here is we're putting the more goal-oriented gaming first as the tutorial for the eventual sandbox, which will then surf down through all these levels. In most games, you think about it, the sandbox is kind of the tutorial. That's where you learn to play the game, and then you go play the real goal-oriented game.
Mm-hmm.
We're using the goal-oriented game to basically train you to use all the editors and to teach you the simulation dynamics at every level, so that by the time you get to the space game, you can kind of fractally surf, both horizontally, from planet to planet, and vertically, from like city to civ to tribal. So eventually, with the players creating all these different worlds here, pull out a little bit more.
That's like, wait a minute, you can pull out more?
Now, the reason
How far can you go?
Like square here. I think we can actually create a whole galaxy here of, tens, hundreds of thousands of worlds that the player can visit and interact with, and kind of make up their own game along the way. This was, you might kind of notice this was an idea I've had a long time ago was Powers of 10. I've always been a big fan of the Eameses. But I never in my mind could figure out a way to kind of roll this into a game and actually make it all add up. More recently, I started working on a SETI game.
I think that's like the end of
gone.
that. I think that is actually the end of it. I think he kind of stops talking about that and goes on to like about Spore and goes on to something else, I think. But yeah, no, it's like absolutely like it's such a unique idea, right? A content remastered. Does someone actually do like a bit of a higher quality job? Now I'm kind of curious. Like I assume it's him talking like the whole conference and not just Spore, right?
Probably.
Which is fine because like where did we end it? Because we ended it like like around here, and then he starts talking about like other stuff. It's like it was Spore. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we covered entirely what I wanted.
Yeah.
But it's neat because it might look a bit better. I guess it does look a little bit less pixelated. It's not as zoomed in as you can see Will a little bit. I mean, I'll link this one as well because why not, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just kind of like going back and having a little peeky at like some of the creatures. Yeah, like I don't know. I just very much prefer this style of game personally.
Yeah.
So like I said, Spore. You're like honestly, even if it came out like this, I think in the long run, Spore would have still been like a game that's fun to play, but maybe still has a bit too much under the hood, right? That's trying to do like, it's hard to make a game interesting when it's trying to be like 3-4 separate games. You know what I mean?
Essentially, yeah.
So, I'm not saying it would have made Spore like a better game for me. I just think I would have preferred like the style.
That's fair.
I've already said what my ideal version of Spore would have been, and that would have been just have it be the cell stage, the aquatic stage, and just like the creature stage, right? And maybe don't go beyond that.
Yeah, I feel like once you get beyond that, it kind of just becomes a very different game.
Yeah. And because like all the cartoony stuff as well, like I mean, that's all personal preference. I want to just emphasize that that's my personal preference. But anything else you want to say about Spore?
I mean, overall, I think the game was pretty okay. It's just like Matthew said, like it kind of felt half-baked because they were trying to put essentially 3 games together. Every stage felt kind of shallow as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
And like together, it just feels like a mess, a hodgepodge of like a bunch of different things, which overall doesn't feel all that good.
Yeah, right. And actually, I kind of forgot. I do have this trailer for E3 2008, just to kind of bring us back around to like, we're leaving 2008, right? That's kind of like why I also want to bring this here, because we saw what Spore was. So let's see the trailer for Spore and see what it became, right?
Yeah.
So this one was uploaded by Spore. Funnily enough, I could link it, and I probably will, but I don't think Spore itself needs the the push. But like, well, yeah, I don't think it really matters if I'm still gonna link it for anybody who wants to check it out, but it's from Spore, the official Spore team, which is cool.
Yeah,
so it is E for everyone. It looks like,
or E10 at the very least,
or E10. Yeah, they probably showed this off at the E3 conference, actually. Or the E3 presentation.
Probably, yeah, at the EA one that we didn't watch.
Yeah. I'm still saying we could look to see if we can find them. But I think we'll keep it to probably specific ones.
Intelligence, but it wasn't always like this.
Is that the narrator from the Stanley Parable?
Dark. So what happened?
It sounds very similar. but I don't know if it is. But it could be, honestly. Yeah, look at this. Very different. Very, very different already. From the Cell stage, right? The big eye's more colorful. Because like the Cell in the original
was a lot more realistic looking.
A lot more realistic looking, right? Like you have this thing. Look at that. Eyes on the sides, right? Not really able to see them super well. And then just this, it's like you're in a literal like a pool, right? Like you're in what one would imagine a Cell pool would be like. And you have this thing which doesn't look cutesy. It looks like a proper Cell, right?
Yeah.
So you go from that, and then you have boom, a very different vibe, you know.
It is, and then like I also have like little chunks of meat and like plants and stuff you can eat for food. Like it feels a little weird in that regard too.
Yeah, right.
Microbe and thought he could use a longer flagella and a pair of pinchers too. Yeah. Next thing you know, he's king of the ocean.
Yeah.
Someone decided he should hit the beach. Land creatures were born, but life on land is a
and once again, much more colorful in general. You don't have like the muted green like the Will's creature had.
A proposition.
Yeah, just all
and even like
much
the flora and fauna, like it looks a lot more like an alien planet, which might be what they're trying to go for.
Yeah, right. Which I think is perfectly fair.
So someone looked at our hero and said he needs to be able to defend himself.
And
voila. As the saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, eat 'em. But survival
that and the animations for them like actually fighting there are a lot more cartoonish than like realistic.
Yeah, right. I guess that's the other thing too, right? Is the one that we saw at the GDC? It did seem much more realistic. It's like, oh, he's like, like kind of like attacking the creature with the little claw hand that he had on his tail. And he's like following him and going like, and like circling him. This one seems a lot more like an MMO, like how an MMO fight takes place, right? It's like, here I
use an ability and it does a stock animation.
Yeah, and actually, I think that is how it plays actually, because I think you got to hit like buttons to do a thing. And it's like, oh, I'm just hitting them and I'm losing HP. They're losing HP. It's a much different feel, right?
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, like the different abilities you can use were kind of tied to different parts as well. So like if you didn't have a certain part, you didn't have an ability.
So someone made our little
I believe you're right.
To the opposite sex. Now we're talking. Or mating, as the case may be.
Also, I love how they just do the little dance instead of like proper mating stuff like they tried in the demo.
Sharp weaponry too.
Yeah, right. Then of course you have this once again looking fairly different. More cartoony, kind of more like cell shaded, to be honest. Like not quite, but kind of going down that route, right? With like how the colors kind of work. How certain things pop out a little bit
cell
more.
shading, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
Ironically, this led to what we call civilization. But civilization meant more competition for just about everything. Happily, someone pulled our species aside and said, you guys need to chill out and unify this planet. So they did.
Rip.
Yeah, unify!
They built starships, and they set out to conquer the galaxy. But what they never realized was that all along the way, from humble microbes to starship captains, someone had guided them at every turn. And that someone
is you.
Is you. Spore. How will you create?
Good job, Megan. Did you rate that?
Coming September 7th,
No.
2008.
Yeah, so, very different. You can see, I don't know what happened, to be honest. I do feel like Spore is one of those games where, once again, a lot of personal preferences. I prefer what Spore was than what it became.
Yeah.
Personally. And yeah, Megan and I might have to watch this one from a sewer reviewer and just kind of see what else may have been cut. Because I'd be
curious.
I'd be curious as well. Because, I only know what I know and what I've seen. There's probably a lot more that I don't know about. Maybe some more behind the scenes
There's probably a lot more. And I mean, like, the stuff that I know is from vague recollections of playing the game. Which, I mean, to be fair, like, I could be wrong on some of that stuff. It's possible. It has been, like, 15 years since I played the game, probably.
Yeah. Right, same. Probably for me even longer.
Well, not much longer than that, I imagine.
Who knows? How long was 15 years ago? Was that 2008?
2009.
2009. I don't know. Did I play, like... Because I didn't really play much. That's... Like, honestly, I may have... Because I probably... I know I got it on launch day. I probably got it on launch day, played it. I mean, you could say, like, arguably maybe, like, half a year longer, debatably. Because, like I said, I'm pretty sure I haven't played Spore since literally it came out. I played it, got bored, disappointed, and then, like, kind of shelved it. Like, I may have gone back to it, like, once or twice to play the creature stage again, and then stopped when I got to the tribal stage. But even then, that's, like, maybe half an hour of gameplay, right? So.
Yeah, because I want to say I played through the game initially, maybe, like, a year after launch. I played a decent amount, got to the space stage, played a decent amount in space stage, then got bored with it and kind of stopped. And then I think a few years later, I tried to play it again, and I probably got up to the tribal stage or up to the civilization stage, and by that point I got bored again, so I stopped.
Yeah, right. Like, it's just meh. You know, I don't know. I feel bad because it's a game with so much potential, but it's, I don't know, just gets boring after a while. Like, if you can, like, if anybody here wants to play it and, like, you can get it for a good price now, you probably could. Like, get it, play it, try it. It's interesting, right? But
yeah, I won't say it's an experience not worth playing, but it's just, it could have been so much more. And, like, if they ever have, like, a developer that's going to try to do a game like that again, I would love to give them a chance.
Yeah, like, it's just not what it could have been, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. So I assume there's nothing else you'd like to say?
Nope, I've said my piece.
All right, so if anybody else has something they want to say about Spore, tell us how much you loved it. Tell us if you felt the same way. Maybe you even outright hated it. Feel free to let us know.
Yeah, definitely tell us and let us know, like, what you disagree with what we said. And, you know, have a civil discussion in the comments.
Yeah, a civil discussion, of course, right? We always want civil discussions. I guess the only other thing I'll add is I actually just remembered that when Spore came out, I think this was because it was around the era of, like, a lot of, like, controversies involving video games, right? With a lot of people rallying to things that honestly didn't really make sense. I think Spore was actually targeted by various religious groups and crowds because it's a game about evolution, right? Which, especially around back then, you had a lot of religious groups and stuff that would go like, yeah, no, that's not good to show, right?
That's really funny.
I feel like you wouldn't really get that anymore. I feel like, I mean, you still have radical, like, religious stuff, right?
Yeah.
But weirdly enough, I feel like in terms of, like, video games and how they were treated, I feel like they were much easier to target by groups like that. Not even just the religious groups, but a lot of various groups.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little fun fact. Spore was the target. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering it correctly that because it was a game about evolution, it was targeted by various extremist religious groups with, like, you know, protests and such, boycotts, you know, etc. All that fun stuff. All right, so I guess that's it then. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. We hope you all enjoyed. But for now, it's time to cue the outro. So frag out, and we shall catch you guys later.
Bye, guys.